his computer.
Nearly.
Okay. Yes, we're live. Okay, so we'll give it a couple of minutes just for people to join because they'll get a notification. But Mike, really good to see you, man. Long time no speak.
Yeah.
Definitely want to share how we met once we get a few people. But how are things in New York, my friend? How's it all going? And
well, out by me, it's pretty calm and quiet. There's other parts of the city that they're protesting, but they haven't. The looting stopped and the burning stopped, pretty much. But they had like 1 or 2 nights where everybody went a little nuts. But so far, it's been fine. The governor's come out and said, "Look, we got it. We understand it. Basically, you protested for a week. You've been on TV every minute for a week.
Yeah.
You'd have to be living in a hole not to know what's going on.
How's the day to day with the pandemic over there?
Day to day is kind of weird. It's there's a lot. I'd say half the people don't wear masks when they walk down the street, which is I think.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I walk around like this, and then when I see somebody coming, I go up, and then when they're gone, I go down. It's because like a lot of times I go for power walks, and you go power walking like this, and next thing you know, you're a little dizzy, and you're like, oh, I need a little air. But, it's come down quite a bit. The governor was quite harsh about people, staying in place, sheltering in place, and for the most part they did. So right now we have the lowest infection rate per capita in the United States.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, it's going up in places.
Oh, all the places that they opened up, all the governors were forced to open up, open. Florida, Georgia, any place where there's a shore, wherever there's beach, people were like dying. And they're dying to go to the beach, and hopefully they don't die because they went to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, we'll see where this madness ends.
Yeah.
Great, got a few people: Nick, Robert, Riley, Yasser, Sando, Stephen, Frankie, Gal. Welcome everyone.
Hello.
Welcome guys. Welcome Mike. Sifu Mike Novak, we're just...
and the dogs have to bark on cue.
Yeah, that's okay. Recognition.
Right, I can hear you.
Just give a brief background. You on Sifu Mike Novak, for those that don't know him, you were born in New York City, Chinatown, under the shadow of the Manhattan Bridge. You started training Jook at the age of 16. And I studied with 3 Sifus over the years, 3 Jook Sifus. Milton Chin in the early 1990s, then with Sifu Norman Chin.
Milton was in the 70s. Milton was in the 70s when I was 16.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 70s. And then in 1990s with Sifu Norman Chin.
Right.
They're no relation, they're just 2 Kung Fu brothers. And then for the last 25 years under Sifu Angelo Quinto. You've been teaching privately for the past 4 years, and I've met Tommy, one of your guys. You said you also were lucky enough to train Jiao Ga for 10 days with the late Grandmaster of Ip Shui in Hong Kong back in 2000.
Wow!
And stayed with him back in 2000. Yeah.
It was quite a. It was funny thing. My daughter. My wife and my daughter. My wife's from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So we went and because my daughter wasn't in school yet, we went for Chinese New Year, and I wanted to see Li Kwok Liang, the Jook Sifu. He's over near Sam Shui Po.
Yeah.
I went up to see him, and he was like, "Well, we're closed. We're closed. There's no classes. That's it." And he has a history of not if you're a foreigner, even if you're Chinese, he can be a bit harsh with people. So unless you're Hakka, but that goes right. So I was I emailed my friend at home, and they said I was crushed. I said, oh, and so one of my friends says, go see Ipsoi. And I says, well, what am I going to do with Ipsoi? I said, that's a whole different style. I said, I have no idea what this even looks like, because like at the time you had some, the internet had just, kind of was getting its own feet. So, you're just getting dribs and drabs of different, video clips, these little 240 by 180 video clips.
Yeah.
They get. And I said, yeah, it'd be really nice to see that in live, because, these guys don't come outside. They, because Ipsoi's brother-in-law, their school is on East Broadway. Arthur Evo knows them. Very difficult to get in there. They don't show nothing. They don't come out and practice out in the open. I mean, Arthur's one of the first few people that, was really willingly sharing, and you guys. But back then it was, we were very So I go up to Ipsoi's apartment, and I knock on the door, and what do you want? So I says, well, I'd like to see a class. And he goes, why do you want to see a class? I says, well, I want to see real Chow Gar. I said, I'm from New York. I said, I know who your brother-in-law is. I said, but, nobody, you don't get to see it. And he laughed. He was like, ha, ha, ha. He goes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. You ain't getting nothing down in New York, right? So he says, come on in. So I go into his house, the same apartment that you have there in the background, right?
Yeah.
And he says, so you want to see Kung Fu? I was like, I would love to see Chow Gar. And he goes, punch me in the throat.
That's a good introduction.
Hello.
I'm standing there and I'm going, okay, it's me, there's you, and nobody knows I'm here. This is not going to end very well. So he's like, da, da, da. So I give him a little tap. He's hitting himself. It's like he takes my hand and he's like, wet. So I try to give him a good smack it, but you can see that he can take all of this muscle and cover his esophagus.
Yeah.
Which was like almost like a cobra, and it just blew my mind, and he saw the look on my face, and he goes, if you want to see more, come back tomorrow. I says, okay, sure. So I go back tomorrow. I go back the next day, and he introduces me to David Lee, to NCK, Jimmy Yang, aka Jimmy Yang. And, just all these people, Dr. Nat Ewan, Troy, the large, Troy,
Choicey Wing.
And they're all sitting there, and I was like, oh my God, it's like, I know about every one of you, but I mean, to actually meet you guys, it's like, and it was, it was just, they all took their turns, dumping me on the floor. And I had a great time, about it. And, it's like, you had Troy's like, put your hand up for a Gao Troy, right? And, it was just like, the most little thunk, and just like my whole body shook, and, so he's over there in the corner and he's laughing, he's laughing. And he says 7 C's, because he was a seaman. He was 7 C's, 100 fights, no loss. And I said, that's all I taught him was the Gao Troy. He goes, I just trained Gao Troy for 6 months because he knew he was going to ship out. And so that's all he trained him and that's,
right.
As they say.
Yeah, I mean, it will take you a long way, actually.
Oh yeah,
I'll try.
It's not. I mean, it's a very. It looks like a very simple thing, but there's a lot of nuance in there.
There is, and that's what accelerates it. It's the power for it, which makes it a little bit more than just a straight, MMA hammer fist, as it were.
So that was it. So I got one at a time. Everybody got to dump me on the floor, which I was just very happy to, because I mean, to me it's like, if you're going to get all pissed off and you're going to resist, you want to learn, what is he doing? What is he doing to you? How is he defeating you? See, that's very important to me. It's like okay, well, now I need to understand what you're doing. you know, not just, you know, I do this and that's that. You know, I mean, it's I always felt that it's very important to know the other man's you know, game and feel his hand. You know, so that was very interesting. So he comes back and he says, you'll come back tomorrow. I said, yeah, just come back tomorrow. I'd come back tomorrow, and then it was just that the whole day was just, that was like a day of hell. It was just chong after 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 hit after hit after hit after hit.
You
And
loved it.
I mean, they kept looking at me like it was like you know, like it was like Cool Hand Luke. You know, it's like, you know, stay down, Luke, stay down. You know, and I just kept getting that. You know, and it's like boom, boom, boom. I mean, oh, it was great stuff, man. It really was. He was one of the nicest, and I have no idea why. I mean, here I'm just some, you know, I'm just some white guy just shows up at his door. And he doesn't know me from Adam, you know, and I'm 200 pounds. He's 100 pounds, you know, and he's like, oh, all right, punch me in the throat.
That's confidence for you. And when you know it works, you know.
Yeah, no, but see that stuff, it was just amazing stuff. You know, I was very blessed. So every day it was like, you want more? Come back tomorrow. You know, I was like, okay. I'd get on the bus, I'd get on that bus. Oh, God. And I'd go down among Dock. And, you know, but no, that was, what was that?
Oh, Garlington.
City, yeah. And then he would get on the mini bus, and we'd walk on the street, and everybody would be like, Sifu, Sifu, Sifu. And he'd get on the mini bus. He didn't have to pay, you know, and people would get out of the way, give him a seat, you know.
That's right. He was well known.
He was well known, yeah.
Yeah, and then so when I was walking down to the Mongok Gun, right? You know, so, you know, and for you guys who've been there, you know, it's hidden, right? If you don't know it's there, you don't know, right? You go up the dark staircase with the light hanging, and you're thinking, oh, okay, nobody knows I'm here. Here I am again. Maybe I'm not going to come home. And I was just like, you open that door, and it's just so beautiful and clean, and you know. And, you know, again, it was just another, you know, 5 hours of misery, but, you know, learning, you know, a lot, you know, they were very willing to share. And
that physical contact is enough to teach you.
I have that picture from him. Nish, can you put up that picture?
Yeah, 1 second.
And it was funny because I'm not the kind of person to go asking for photos, you know, and because I never brought a camera with me. And he says the next to the last day, he said, bring camera tomorrow. And I was like, okay, you know, and that was very, 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 very enjoyable vacation.
So who's on the left of the picture?
The left of the picture is Daniel Lee.
Daniel Lee.
Yes, he's a gentleman named Daniel Lee. He was always around and up and about, and he didn't have his own school. He was just a student, but he was always there. I did a lot of the training with him, and of course there's Jimmy Yang there, and like I said, it was an amazing time.
Yeah, that it does look like Paul and Choi, doesn't it? I'm not sure it is now, because it does look like him.
Wow, what a great way to start this talk.
Yeah.
So I first met Mike, I think, must have been 10 years ago. I'd taken a trip to New York for a friend's wedding, and Mike and I were in contact. It was either through
forums or
it was one of the forums, or it would have been
early
Facebook or something where
Facebook, yes.
Yeah, Facebook or something. Mike and I we've been talking, you know, kung fu for well over a decade, and I was coming to New York, and Mike was like, if you come to New York, let me know. And this was before kind of it was early when we weren't really like with technology as it was now. So I'd stayed at a friend's house, and then I had to move to another place. So back then it was Craigslist. So looking at, it wasn't Airbnb, Craigslist, and we found this place. So we were like, okay, that's fine. So we were staying in this plush hotel in near Macy's. That's what I remember, Macy's. And then we had to take a taxi to this new address. And when we were telling people this is the address, like no taxis wanted to take us. They were like, no, we're not going there. We're not going there. Finally, we found a taxi to take us, and we didn't know why. We just thought maybe it's a bit far out. So I got to this place during the day, and I thought, wow, like where we were, I was like, oh, it's a really nice place. Like the houses are huge, like multi-levels and stuff like that. So anyway, Mike sends me a text message or a message and says, where are you? I said, oh, here's the address. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing there? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, why are you staying in Bed-Stuy? And I was like, I don't know, like, what's wrong with Bed-Stuy? And he was like, have you been outside? I said, no, I haven't, man. I haven't been out. He's like, okay. So
well, that was 10 years ago. See, now it's all changed. It's like all of Brooklyn changed. It's like it's all white.
Yeah, so Mike couldn't actually find the address, so he was knocking on doors, right? And he was like, dude, I've been looking for you for like half an hour, knocking on doors, and people are like, who's this kind of white guy knocking on our doors asking for random people? So he found me in the end, and he was like, dude, like, let's get out of here, let me take you somewhere else. So we ended up going to he took me around to your school, and then we went to the park where everyone trained. Yeah, and then Mike took me to the park, and we met some of his
you met my teacher, and then you met his
teacher, and then there was a whole bunch of other guys there. It was a great day, and there was a dragon guy, there was other guys, and we got to like train and play hands, and then we had some food. It was really nice to, I always appreciate that, Mike, for you to come in to pick me up and take me around.
Well, that was one of the spirits of the park was that, there was, basically everybody just got together and shared. I mean, nobody was, oh, well, I've got the ultimate technique, It wasn't like that. It was just, just people just getting together and just, because still, 10 years ago, still kind of, martial arts was still kind of really secretive, so you kind of had to, kind of either figure it out yourself, or you'd had to ask somebody else, and then you'd find out through the grapevine what the real story was. And it was like now, so you went to the park, and that's where you gossip.
Do they still do that at the park?
Yeah.
What's the name of the park, Mike?
It's Sarah Roosevelt Park. Sarah Roosevelt Park. It's right across from the Pace High School, not the Pace University, but the Pace High School. And then the other park is Columbus Park. That's right across from the Manhattan, what would they call it? The police, the corrections department there.
And it's well known for that, right? That's where a lot of kung fu guys go to train and meet.
Yeah. People hold their classes out there. They bring their students out there. They do, all kinds of stuff, staff, Tai Chi, the Yin.
Yeah. Is that the one with the big yin and yang on the floor?
No, that's the one where that's Sarah Roosevelt. That's the one. That's the one. That's where he met my.
Right.
Because they had that big school that's like right next to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so Mike, tell us a little bit about you. How did you end up finding Jook Lam at 16 years old? Like,
it kind of found me. I remember when I was in junior high school. I remember this one kid who was getting chased down the street by these two other kids, right? And they finally caught up to him, and he did, one of these. By the way, he just opened up his hands like this, right? So he went from like this to this, right? And I never seen anybody do that before. And he managed to put one kid in front of the other, right? And he did a couple of strikes, just like sort of confuse them, and then he ran off. And I said, "That's brilliant." He used the one against the other, and he managed to get away. And I have never seen that before. And I'm trying to describe it. And everybody's like, yeah, well, I don't know, whatever, yeah. And then a friend of mine said, oh, he goes, I trained with this guy, that's what we do. And it's, oh, that's Jook Lam. Oh, okay. Came down, I took a look at the class. I said, yeah, this is what I want to do. And it was, he was teaching privately. Basically, somebody in the school had to, bring you in.
Yeah.
It was that kind of a thing,
That was
And I was with him for a couple of years, and then unfortunately I found a girl, and we moved in together, and my priorities changed, you know. I really didn't get back into, you know, I stopped training and all that, and I didn't get back into that till 1990. So, and then I was looking around, and my first teacher wasn't teaching anymore, and so he says, "Oh, go see go see Norman. Norman's teaching. You know, he teaches lion dance, and he teaches Jook, and so I went down to him, and I was with him for a couple of years, and then I ran into Sifu Quinto, and I saw the way he moved, and I just saw his use of energy, and I said, "This guy's got something really special," you know. And, you know, getting to talk to him, you know, he's like, "No, I wasn't taught in a classroom setting." You know, it was basically, he was taught one-on-one by his teacher. You know, and that's, you know, one of the reasons Lamb took, you know, groups of 5, because, you know, you have 3 pairs, and this way everybody can touch his hand, everybody can, you know, everybody gets a turn, everybody, you know, very, very hands-on, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, that's kind of more the direction I wanted to go in. And so we started training with him, and I've been with him ever since. And then at some point, he suggested that I start training other people. And he goes, "You're at the point where when you start training other people, you start, you know, epiphany is not the best word, but it's, you know, like things you start to understand all of a sudden why when you're teaching."
Yeah. It definitely does have an impact on your understanding, because you have to explain things that you haven't really tried to vocalize or tried to explain before, you've taken for granted, and then you start to think about it in a different way.
Right, and you start thinking about it in a different way,
Yeah.
and because you're having to validate it now to yourself, not just to somebody else. Well, now you're having to say, "Hey, self, what? Does that work? I don't know. Let's try." You know, you're having these discussions in your head, you know. But yeah, but it's difficult, and you know as well. You know, like this kind of training is, you know, it's very boring. You know, right? It's not pretty. You know, and you know, I would have guys start, and then they would come and go. And then they would come, or they would be like, "Oh, well, you showed me that last week. I need to, you know." I'm like, "No, you're going to walk, and then you're going to walk, and then you're going to integrate your hands as you walk, right? And then I need you to get your whole body connected. I need to see the whole body, not just the hands, because everybody thinks it's like, whoa, 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 you know, it's all in the, you know, and, you know, it's really, you know, from the feet all the way up through your ass and, you know, your torso and everything, and then out the hands. The hands at the end, they're not the beginning. So, you know, my student Tommy, right? Say hello, Tommy.
Hello.
Hi, Tommy.
So let me tell you, this is like a comedy routine. So Tommy's asking me for like 3 years to teach him, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm not teaching anymore. I'm done. Like I've tried. I said, you know, I said, Tommy, this training, it's like watching paint dry. And he says,
I said, "Let me watch."
Actually, what he said was, he goes, "Because I watch paint dry for a living."
Oh yeah,
he goes, "And I said, I was like, what? You watch paint?" He goes, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I work in the Metropolitan. He's a guard at the Metropolitan Museum, so he does watch paint dry for a living." So he's been with me now for like 4 years, and I've got another 2 guys, but. Yeah, but it's teaching is it brings you up another level. You know, it makes you like I said, makes you look at things in a whole new way.
Yeah. It makes you re-examine stuff you already know in depth, maybe, but yeah, you actually re-examine it because you're actually trying to now get it across to someone else. You're understanding it,
and you're continually learning.
Also,
sometimes students will ask you a question or have a different perspective of something, and it makes you think, or it makes you adapt. Excuse me.
Sorry, that's me. That's not.
Oh no, absolutely, because now, like, even when you watch, you just sit and watch. Now all of a sudden, you're the third person. instead of just coming from your own eyes in your own situation, you get to see, like when there's three of us, so the one guy's watching, you know, it's just as important for him to watch as it is for the other guy to feel. Because the guy who's watching, he can say, oh, I can see where your footwork is off. I can see where you're leaning in, right? I can see your elbows aren't close enough. I can, you know, while when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't realize it.
Yeah.
You know, you say, okay, let me try that again. Okay, now, you know, be closer, have a better posture. All of a sudden, it worked by the third person. You know, so there's, you know, that whole essence of sharing amongst us, you know, even though I am their teacher, you know, we still have a lot to share. We have a lot to learn from each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, I've got a question for you for those on the group that might not know the history of Jook Lum in NYC. You know, the names like Junfu Mark, Lum Sung.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. We have a train. Hold on a second. I have a train going by. Can't hear you.
Yeah, so the history of Jook Lum coming to the US or to New York. So the names like Lam Sung and Junfu Mark are synonymous with Jook Lum, like, as I know. So can you talk a little bit about how it came to America or to and the history of Jook Lum in maybe in New York?
Yeah.
Well, the version of Lamb's Jook Lum, I mean, is different than other people's. So you could say, if we're going to talk about Lamb's lineage, you know, he basically came here in the mid '50s, and started in with his first group. He then, you know, he left in about '68. He went back to Taiwan. At that point, he had his second group. And then he came back. When he came back, I believe it was in the early '80s, he formed his last group. So he had three different distinct groups of five. And, you know, we've all seen the photographs. You can go on any number of websites and see them sitting around. But as he got older, he taught them differently. Yeah. You know, because it's an evolution as he grew, you know. And, you know, we had Junfu Mark, who came here. He met here in Chinatown. And then, you know, Junfu Mark was, you know, a much bigger man than he was. You know, there's the famous picture, Nisha's got it there, of Junfu Mark and Lamb standing on Mount Street, where, you know, you figure, here's the little guy, here's the really big guy, guess which one is the teacher, you know? You know?
And you got that photo, Nish?
Is he there?
Yeah. Oh, Nish. Yeah, have you got that photo? Oh, yeah. Look at that.
So that's Lamb and Junfu Mark back in the day.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. And Junfu Mark was already, you know, he was already a master, I believe, in Crane and so other things. So that's when I first met Junfu Mark. That was down in Baltimore for a tournament. That was in the early '90s. That's the same tournament where I think you can see him. He's on a dais and he's got a green a jacket trimmed in green, and he does some free hands.
Okay.
Yeah, probably from '91. Yeah. So Junfu Mark, he had his own school. He was one of the first guys to teach openly. Of all of, you know, I think he was probably the only one of Lamb's guys that openly taught. He had a school on East Broadway right there on the second floor. And when he wasn't teaching, he had, one of his students, James Sue, who was my teacher's teacher. James would run the class when Mark wasn't there. And then Mark, as we know, moved out to Minneapolis and started his school out there. And aside from that, you have Puyi down in Florida. Puyi wasn't part of any of the groups of five, but his instruction was private. And, he went his own way because, like I said, we're all doing the same thing differently, you know. And so that's where it is today. I mean, not there's the Jinfu Mark School and Puyi School, Norman School, and I think there's some other. I think there's a guy in Seattle that has an open school, but here in New York, that's pretty much it's Norman. It's Norman's.
And Norman was one of.
He was a disciple of Hodun, who is in the second group.
Ah, right.
He was with Jinfu Mark. He was a Jinfu Mark. Yeah. And then these guys, and then they came down through him.
Nice. And sorry, yeah.
But Norman, like I said, Norman is in the YMCA. He's in the YMCA that's right by that park, and he teaches line dancing for free to the little kids, and that's keeping the culture alive,
Yeah. Because he's still got a regular school. Is he still teaching Jook as well?
Well, I think he retired, but still there at the school, and I think they're still there.
Right.
As far as I know, they're still there. But that's it. It's not that
Yeah. So you've met. You said you're at the end of the intro that I missed the last bit. It said you're most grateful for all the instruction you've received from the previous masters that I'd mentioned, as well as time spent with the late GM Jinfu Mark as well. So you actually spent time with him. We saw that picture, but did you spend much time with him?
No. The only time I saw him was when he was here you'd come here to New York, and then I was out there in Minneapolis on business. So I spent a day with him there,
right.
And then we would meet when in the '90s. He would come to all these tournaments. We would go to his hotel room, and he'd take a couple of pokes at us, and that'd be fun. But he was a very good spirit to be around, Jim Fumar. Very nice, very very nice.
So what was your early memories? Your early memories of training. What was your training like? What did you do early on when you first started? You there, Mike?
Yeah. Come here.
Yeah? Your fate. Oh, there you are. Back. Yeah, what was your early memories of your training?
We did a lot. A lot of calisthenics. 20 minutes of calisthenics warm up, and then we would break off. And the seniors would work with the juniors. We would do chongs. Different chongs. Of course, sambo jing. Walking back and forth with the partner. Transmission of energy. And a lot of feel, a lot of hands-on. Not a stick form and 18-point form. It wasn't a big curriculum.
Right.
But it was fairly standard. Same thing, like when I was with Norm, as like standard, open school, But like I said, I wasn't getting the kind of hands-on experience that I got with Sifu Angelo.
Yeah, that's quite fundamental.
But early on, it was when you're a teenager, you're indestructible. So it was.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, your signal's quite low. Your bandwidth's quite low. Keep breaking up a bit. So most of your training then was the drills, chongs, and a lot of contact. Was it a lot of sticky hand stuff?
Yeah, a lot of different drills where you would stick to the other person's hand and back and forth and this kind of thing. Where you're training your subconscious not to work or worry about what you're seeing, but what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much the essence of Jook Club, is being able to just be able to feel with the minimal a minimal amount of effort, a minimal touch.
Yeah.
As Jin Mark used to say, he used to say like electric shock. He goes like a shock, like that's how long you want to be in contact with, you know, which is easy for him to say without a level of skill, you know.
Yeah, well, those kinds of skills, they take a long time to develop, and through drilling and repetition, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's, you know, all the traditional arts that deal with sensitivity do take that that time and that effort and the constant repetition. So that's you're getting that feedback with a partner.
Right, and having somebody, and it's also important that you're doing it with somebody who's better than you, you know, so that they give you the right amount of energy, the right amount of pressure. Because if they just shut you down every time, you really don't learn anything. Because I know there are schools out there where they're just guys are beating on each other, and you know, teachers going, well, you know, figure it out, you know, and it's like, yeah. Whereas, you know, you work on why you fail. Like you take it to the point of failure, then you have to say, okay, why did I fail? Was it my structure? Was it my body position? Was it just my energy? Did I let my energy down? You know, because like in the way I understand Jook Club now, it's got to get over and done with quick, like one breath, 3 strikes, and not a lot of wrestling and not a lot of bridging. You know, so it's a little higher level of. But again, you have to have partners, and you have to have partners that have open minds and partners you can train with, and not just, you know, you're not just wasting time, you know.
I mean, I agree with you that if someone is stronger than the other person, they do need to tone it down, because if you're training together to develop something, if the person does close you down all the time, neither of you really learn. Even the one that's stronger, it's okay, his technique's working on someone that's weaker. But what happens when it's someone that's as strong as him? So you have to kind of match your power when you're training to develop each other's abilities and skills. You know, everyone's got a different need of what they need. Someone needs to build their strength, someone needs to build their sensitivity. But so, and essentially, Jook Club, like most of the other Mantis systems, a partner system.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you need people, and ideally someone better than you to bring you up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's the same in Jook Club, same in Dalga as well.
What's the
weapons? What weapons did you use, Mike? Did you ever?
Well, the pole. The pole was the first weapon that we learned, and it was the 5-point pole. Then. There was butterfly knives, 2 butterfly knives, double, then single saber, double saber. Then if you were around long enough, you know, there was also the tiger fork. There's a if you go and look at Chinese New Year, and Norman Chin, they put up. He's got a ton of videos up of them doing weapons and they do the tiger fork. There's also there's also a clip out there with Jin Mark doing the tiger fork, and he bends it. He was so he was like so into it. He was he bent, and he bent. He has to turn it back and bend it back. But you can see it wasn't a cheap one. It was. And that was pretty much it. Pole, butterfly sword, single saber, double saber, tiger fork, and that was pretty much it. That was pretty much.
What are the key what's the key syllabus or curriculum that you have in your family?
Well, the syllabus is not that much. I mean it's basically 3 forms. It's 3-step arrow, 18 points, and what they call the Simkyun, which is a form that you got to be a young man to do. Basically, you know, you a lot, very low to the ground, very, very, very slippery, very, very evasive. Sambojin is again, it's one of those things. I call it the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, I've been doing it my whole life, and and I'll be back here doing it, and all of a sudden it'll just be like I said, I have an epiphany, like you're saying, oh, I can do this, and I never thought of doing it. It just, it just happened, and a lot of it comes off of it. This is what the Sambo Jin that we do gives you is the structure, number one. It gives you your root, your structure, and your basic power, the basic powers.
Yeah.
Then your 18 point takes your energy and makes it continuous. Now, even in Sambo Jin, your energy needs to be continuous, even though it looks like you stop and start, stop and start. And people do that. They stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And then when they stop, they kind of lose their energy. Then they got to build the energy back up. And then you want it to just keep coming in, keep coming in, keep coming in.
Yeah.
And 18 point gives you the real smoothness of the system, where you're being very elusive and very you're trying to run away from confrontation. When somebody puts their arm out, like, you don't want to just be like this, where you're pushing back and forth, right? So you let him go. You let him go, and you slide around. You slide around him, and you get in. That's the basic syllabus. I mean to say, I'll say this. They're probably, a lot of people know Sambo Jin, but you have to say how many people know Sambo Jin. I mean, if you're doing the form the same way you've been doing it for the last 20 years, then you're really not doing anything but a form. I mean, I think it's part of it. It's like sometimes I'll do it, and I'll just get into this headspace where it's just like, I'm just very happy to be there and just be very controlled, and just do it very nice and slow and very controlled, And I'm not going, I'm not trying to And there are times when you want to go, right? You want to get your hands out there and back, But it's easier to do it fast, because speed hides a multitude of sins, So, but when you go nice and slow, and you go like through your hand, and you feel the energy go from your pinky to the next finger, to the next finger, to the thumb, and up and back, and then you can claw, and you can sort of just play with the energy and just sort of make it yours, And this way you want to do it. I mean, and it's like by teaching these guys, you learn things that let's say other people that that weren't apparent, or things you weren't ready for. That's why I call it the gift that keeps on giving, because you can say, well, I'm done. I know this. I know Sambo Jin. I know it. And you can say, yeah, okay, you know it.
You know the moves.
But I mean, it's more than what it appears to be. And even the techniques in Sambo Jin, which appear to be one thing, can actually be several. Depending upon what the other guy is doing.
Right.
So you can't just say in your mind, okay, I'm going to do this. It's why you have in the system, you have to be fluid, and you have to be always ready to be able to change.
So the form you like, again, just as with Sambo Jin, looks the same for our Sambo Jin, then Joga. It looks like a set of movements. You move forward, you punch, you extend your fingers, claw back, step forward again. But it changes so much. And what people can't see is the internalized part of it, is how you feel. And you'll do it differently depending on how you feel. And sometimes you do it and it makes you feel different than you did before. You did it the same, but it made you feel different. And that's why it never gets boring in that sense. If you're constantly searching, there's always something there. And it's just as you described with your Juklam Sambo Jin, that it's one of these things. It's just it changes all the time.
Yeah,
Changes with you, changes with your age, changes with how you're feeling day to day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, it's when I was younger, it was always fun. Like you'd try to, you know, muscle up and, you know, and now you use muscle, right? And now it's just like,
yeah.
And then it's just you just feel it come up through your body, and it's just, then you feel it project, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, and the reason, you know, one of the things we want to keep it nice and smooth is that, like, a lot of times you don't know what you're going to hit the other guy with, right?
Yeah.
So if I make a really hard fist, right? I swing at him with a really hard fist. Let me just back up a little bit. Right? If I swing at him with a really hard fist and I hit him, good. If I miss him, bad. Because now I'm out here, and then I've got to recharge. I got to bring the hand back. Where conceptually, I want to do this. I want the hand to go. I want the hand to go, come out and back. I want it to be, everything we do is like the infinity signal.
Yeah, to keep that continuous.
As my hands. So as one hand goes out, the other hand is coming in. One is going out, one is coming in. Right. So you're always constantly putting pressure on him.
Yes.
And again, like I said, so now as my hand comes up towards his face and I go like this, so now I have all my powers right here, right? So now if I see I'm close enough, at the last second I can goucho him, right? Now let's say he moves back a little, or for some reason I say I want to do this and I want to phoenix it. Right? If I want to bring it, see, if my hand is already made, then I'm already committed. Whereas this way, as this comes, I can shape it. I can, if he's going to try to resist it, I can go around it. But my energy is always going forward, not wickedly. You know.
Yeah. It's like if you throw too much power into a technique, it travels, doesn't it? It can go past the target if you miss.
Right. If you hit them, great, and if you don't, that's why you have to have that control. And I call it your sphere of influence. You know, like how like the Da Vinci painting with you have a sphere of influence. So you always want to be aware, distancing. Distance from, where his head is. If you're going to hit him here, what's his head going to do? If you hit him like in the kidneys or in the liver, his head's not, what's he going to do? He's constantly moving. So you have to constantly be able to move with him being moving. Because it's not like you have a practice dummy there, which isn't going to move, and you can pretend you're Muhammad Ali and, shuffle around it, somebody trying to take your head off and still be calm and still keep your energy and still be focused. But being calm is number one. Yeah. So to have that calmness in your mind.
So there's what kind of level of importance is placed on your footwork? Because that's something you said that when you saw Angelo, the way he moved. Yeah. That's what.
Your footwork is everything, especially if you're going to talk about Lamb's art, because Lamb was a small person, just like, and it's always funny because I say, you see Lamb and Yip Sui, they're pretty much the same size. Yeah. Their approach to their art was totally polar opposite, but they could both make it work for themselves, Well, like I said, you asked about our training. I mean, we don't do a lot of, the rib, the rib striking. Yeah. I've never been exposed to that, too much of that. Because basically you don't want to, it sounds arrogant to say, but you really don't want to get hit. You want to rely on your structure and your footwork. The footwork is what's paramount, because if your footwork is off, then everything is off, because then your stance is off. You're not rooted. You don't have proper waist power. You don't have rib power. You don't. Then you're just swinging your arms.
It's all built on the structure, isn't it? The
Yeah.
foundation. You have your foundational structure, and everything comes off that.
Everything. I mean, that's the one thing. Like my Sifu Angelo's teacher, Mr. Sue, used to say, whoever has the better basics wins. And when he said that to us, 20 years ago, we were all like, oh, yeah. And now it's like, yeah, it's true. It's whoever has the better basics wins.
Yeah.
Especially when
the foundation.
Because I mean, like, especially Alex. I mean, to stand in front of you, which I have. I mean, it's not going to work for me. I have to be able to get to the side of you, because now once I get to the side of you, I'm only having to deal with one arm.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what you want, is to be able to do that is to get, but it's not just jumping to the side and jumping back in.
Yeah.
It's a controlled spiral. You want to be able to spiral in on it. Like a nautilus.
I like the way you described it, actually, because for those of, Mike's just referring to, I went out and met Mike as well. Went out to New York and hooked up with Mike and went around. He showed me all over, thank you very much, showed me all over New York. And we had a great time. And then we went to Central Park. I think it was on my last day. Yeah. And we just had a little play there with nothing really. So it was just kind of exploring, examining. We just did a tiny bit of like touching hands and just that contact, that feel. And it was interesting. Mike was explaining the concept of that he's just described out, of moving in controlled manner away and spiraling around. So you're on the attack, even though you're moving away. You're on the attack all the time.
Right, exactly. It's like I said, a nautilus shell. You don't want to just go around. You want to go like this and go in.
Yeah. It's a great concept as well. It's and again, those things, we kind of do as well in Jalgar, but it's just I've never really thought of it in that process. It was really interesting discussion.
Like I call it, like I said, for years I would do it wrong. For years, I would jump out of the way and then try to jump back in, and then like jumping out, all of a sudden your power stops.
Yeah. And
now you got to get your power back up and bring it back to the party, but by that time it's too late. So by stepping off in a manner where you're stepping off but coming back in, now your hand, once you come back in, everything accelerates into whoever it is you're dealing with.
Mike,
And
can you talk about some of the key two-man drills that you go through, that you train?
Basically, we do very little of two-man drills. I mean, aside from the basic chongs, which are basically the same that you guys do. I mean, the chongs, boom, boom, grip, pull, in, out. Those are basically the same. As far as the two-man sets go, Jinfu Mark made up the two-man sets. And if you're coming from a background where you don't have any experience in martial arts, they're very good. But at some point, I think that you need to move away from them, because you need to be more spontaneous. You need spontaneity, and not just because you felt something once before, you're going to now, it's going to happen again. Because my philosophy is like nothing's ever going to happen exactly the same twice. And so. And plus, Tommy has got experience. He's done Kali before. My other guy, Greg, was a wrestler, and so they understand their bodies, and they understand that how to move. But the two-man forms, like I said, if they're better suited for people who are just starting out. Because you start having muscle memory, And I remember when we started learning a two-man set with Angelo, me and my partner Vito, the late Vito Harris. Like he's teaching us this two-man set, and we keep going off script. You know, we just keep going off script, and it was just like, it's like, why are you going off script? Because I can't, because he's over here, but you're not following the form. So it's sort of, do we really want to keep doing this sort of thing? You know, we're more like, we're just, like I said, for beginners, I think it's a really good thing, but I think at some point you need to move away from it and get into situations that cause you to react.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well. You know, because you end up drilling. You can drill stuff for years, and if it's got a purpose. There's certain things like doijong. They're not fighting principle. It's a training method. The jong, you know, and it's for developing power and distance, timing, sensitivity, all those kinds of things.
Exactly, because you have applications, you have developmental. Like you said, the doijongs are developmental.
Yeah.
They're developing good habits, good skill, and when somebody bangs your arm, you're not going to go ouch.
Yeah.
You'll be able to understand what's going on. But in terms of fighting applications, they're not.
It's not. It's not. That's not a fighting application thingy. But like, again, you're right. For fighting application, if things are set patterns, there's a very limited time that should be done because you do need that spontaneity. So do you do a lot more two-man sticky stuff of moving around and just testing and
Yeah, we do a lot of that. That we
That's
do.
just live.
Yeah. That's pretty much what we'll do. But we'll do things controlled. We'll do things in a controlled manner. So So just give me a question. Okay, right. So we'll do say like the punch with that hand. Boom. See, we'll do that. All right, do it again. Boom, boom, boom. See, and now he's gonna give me sword. Give me a little harder. See.
So just change it up all the time. We keep doing these drills.
Right. So we'll oh my God, we just on several continents we just got ourselves banned. We actually
yeah. Don't worry. He's got long arms, everyone.
He does. Yes, he does.
He was still 2 meters away.
Yeah. But that's the way. But that's basically the way that I drill with people these days.
Yeah.
It's and then you throw different kind, and then there are different kinds of places. Throw hooks, throw uppercuts, and you give yourself you play with it. You play with it. Your time, your distance. Do you go out? Do you go high? Do you go low? What are you going to do? And you experiment.
Yeah.
Control. It's like a controlled experiment.
Yeah.
There'll be times when he'll just say, "Okay, do whatever it is you want to do." Yeah.
Again, that changes, and it changes and is many layered as well. Because, like you say, there's no two things that are exactly the same. So, getting someone to just do a stand and punch all the time, the distance, the timing, and everything should change as you get. First, you learn how to respond and what you're doing, and then it should be much more spontaneous, so that you don't know what's coming, you don't know where it's coming from, and then you have to react, and you come out with what you've learned.
And like you just said, and when something bad happens, you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know when it's gonna, it's just going to happen. And so, when something bad happens, you just have to be able to go, you just have to be able to just go, like one of the things is like, always have, there we go, the bikers. So you're always wanting to make sure that you have forward pressure on the other person. So even if as you're going around them, you're still going like this. You're still wanting to feel where they are and if I feel him, if I can get my hand on him, and I can feel that where his center is. Now I'm going to make him turn. He doesn't want to turn. He wants to stand there. So by making him do something he doesn't want to do, which is turn, now if my hand is on his hip, I don't have to hit him with this hip. If I'm on his elbow, especially if I'm on his elbow, I feel him off balance. Now I can, now you can shove him off his route, and you can vamoose out of there, or you can,
exploit the his disadvantage, put him at disadvantage and exploit it.
Yeah. So what was it like first training under Sifu Angelo Quinto? I mean, you've been with him 25 years. So.
It was very different because it was one-on-one. At the time, there was me, the late David Diaz, and the late Vito Harris. These were two brothers that. So there was 4 of us there that trained. And so you go from a big group where you're like, there's 20 people in the room, and it's just you. And it was just very difficult because he was for the basics, just like his teacher was a stickler for the basics. So, you walk and get your hands. With the internet here. So you spend a lot of time developing your foundation, which I actually liked. I mean, I said, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted, And so, it was the difference from week to week was not very discernible, which is kind of frustrating. I mean, there was a little bit of a frustration because you never see how good you're getting because you have the same 4 people in the room and everybody's getting better, And then you'll meet somebody that you've known, and they'll be like, "What have you been doing for the last 2 years?" Well, I'll play some hands, and but all of a sudden it's just like bam, 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 and you're just like, oh, geez, where did that come from? And it came from, all of that endless walking on the floor and like I said, the energy, a lot of energy drills, a lot of hand on hand transmission. He had to see, for me to be, I didn't know what it was like to generate energy before that. And I had to be able to feel somebody who can generate energy like that. Right. And then you can't just say, well, how do you do that? Because there's no simple answer. But once you know what it feels like, now you have to go into your own laboratory in your head. And then and just by walking and doing sambo ging and just going, being as basic and as stripped down as you can, then like all of a sudden things become very clear. As I used to say, this is really, really simple when you start, and then in your head you make it so you get so crazed, and you make yourself so crazy, and then at the end you say, oh, this was very simple, all along. I mean, we have a funny story to tell. As oh my God, back when I first met Sifu Angelo, his teacher takes us to the park. Not out in Jersey, we're out in Jersey, and I'm there with Angelo and Dave and Vito, and he says, I'm going to show you the whole system. Really? And he goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he does like 9 moves. And he goes, that's it. And we all looked at each other. We were like, we came all the way to Jersey just to hear that. And it's funny because he was right. I mean, how many ways can you move your hands? Right? I mean, it's once you're in your stance. I mean, there's only so many ways you can be effective. And you have to just strip it down. And the more you strip it down, it's like peeling an onion. The more you find, the more, it's,
Do you have the principles of Foul, Chum, Kung Po you know, the four dynamics, the moving, the up and down, you know, float and swallow.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Float, swallow, sink, spit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. No,
Yeah.
that
Less
comes
emphasized, is it?
no, because that comes with the footwork. That comes hand in hand with the footwork, because against him, you know, you have to move, so you have to fight, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's going to issue power, so you're going to have to swallow his power, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, you sink to generate power, right? But you're not going to be up here. You want to be as low as possible, right? And then you spit.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, those are very, 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 very important
fundamentals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool.
Do you do much in the way of? I know you've seen a lot of Chow Gar. Do you do much in the way of two-man conditioning, like limb hitting and body conditioning?
Yeah. Well, basically, I put up a video of our guys. Again, they're the same. Basically, they're the same kind of things you guys do. You know, there's very, very small differences, but it's the same kind of thing. One of the favorite tortures teachers like to do is rolling bamboo. When you roll bamboo on your arms. Yeah, where you get two guys.
Or hurty logs like this one.
Oh yeah, those are just hurty logs. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just playing with it. I was just cuddling it.
Yeah. But we do. Yeah, you do the bamboo rolling. Is very important at the beginning. Like when I first started, you did a good 20 minutes of that a day. You found somebody to go, and you would do that. But you have to use jiao. Yeah. You're going to just screw your arms up, you know. But yeah, the rolling and the conditioning, you know, that was it. And then, like I said, a lot of the same dojongs you do. You know, you shoot, the other person just shoots. You know, you're doing this thing with your rubbing. You know, you're each extending energy. You're having to stop them. You know, you're not going to just go. You know, so you have to stop them. You have to. It's like you know what I say? You know what? It's like watching a fighter jet land on an aircraft carrier. Okay, you know, it hits the wire and it just stops. You know, you're going, and then it just stops, and then you just bring, and then the strength is just brought back. You know.
Yeah, that tension that in the cable, the tendons, isn't it? Out and then back in.
Yeah. And you know, if you want to hit bags, you know, hit heavy bags, you know, that's fine. David, my late David, he would train iron palm on the sandbags, you know, and just because it just fit in with what he did. You know, he was a very, very, very small guy, and so but for him to slap you, would be like getting hit with a slap. You know, like what do they call those things? A sapper the cops have.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Another piece with a piece of lead in it. Yeah, that's what like getting hit by Dave would be like. You know. Yeah. Like I said, it's not the big curriculum, because it's not the quantity, it's the quality. You know, I mean, I would say that most people, if all they trained was just Sambojin and they understood it, really peeled it down and understood how it worked with proper fundamentals, that's pretty much that. You could probably take care of yourself with that. The 18 just smooths everything out, just makes everything just so much, you know, I wouldn't say easier. Easier is not the right word, but it's just less effort. You want to put as little effort into it as possible.
It's refining it then.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're developing it and refining. And the Simkin, is it?
Yeah, Simkin is very few people get to that part. I never got to that part. That's very low to the ground, and that's very invasive, and that's almost all footwork. That's very, 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 you know, like I said, different people, different people will teach it differently. The mileage may vary, you know, just, you know, there's really, you know, it's you got to be able to move. You know, I'm 62, so I can't, there's no way for me
to get on the floor. We start slowing up as we get older. It gets a bit harder, doesn't it? Yeah, you'd think it's quite a strange thing that the physically hardest form would be at the end, if because they invariably don't teach very quickly in these systems either.
Yeah.
So unless you start very young, you know, you get into that stage where you're ready to do that and you're not physically able to do it. A bit crazy.
Yeah.
Mm. So many people haven't completed it in that curriculum or whatever.
No. And also, what version did you get? Who gave it to you? That's all up for grabs too. I'm not going to speculate about things like that. But it's like the 108. Okay, like there's the magical 108.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you could sit here till tomorrow and talk about, you know, 108. You know, what does it mean? Who has it? Who created it? Why they created it? Who is yours real? Is mine real? Was this real? Yeah. The bottom line is, can you use your art? Can you use what you have? You can have very little. And you look at, like I said, if you look at the ultimate example to me is Master Choi, right? You know, who's, you know, with just the Gao Choi.
All right, yeah.
Right. I said, you know, the guy. Something fell. So it's not how much, it's how well you know things.
Yeah. Does it inform a lot of kicking in that?
No, there actually isn't a lot of kicking in Jook Club. In the most of the kicking is done to the ankles, to the inside of the legs, maybe to the bladder. Is about as high as you're going to go.
Yeah.
Well, you really don't want to get your legs higher than.
Yeah, typical of most car systems, really.
Yeah. Like I said, the highest is right to the bladder.
Yeah.
Not a good place to get kicked.
No, it's not. So there's no kicks in the forms.
There are, and you know, it's funny. It's funny you say that. When in Sambo Jin, no, but in 18 Point there are.
Right. Yeah.
And there's sort of, how can I say, they come out naturally when you're doing the form. It depends upon how you want to start the form. What do you want to do in it? It's like shin, ankle, knee, just shin, ankle, knee, inside of the ankles. You're more disrupting than anything else. If you attack and you kick and hit at the same time, the kicking is more of a distraction. The kicking is more like just to get somebody to go, what?
Yeah.
And in that moment of discombobulation, that's when your hands can go free. Also,
right.
It also depends on how the other person stands. I mean, if some people have a very forward, like some people give a very forward bow and arrow stance, you know, where they just naturally put one foot forward. I mean, take advantage of it. You can take advantage. It's not another thing that you don't go looking for anything. You basically take it, you know, that's what you want to do, is you want to take as much as you can from the other person and not necessarily have a set idea of what it is.
Of course. Yeah. You can never go in with a plan and think it's going to just work out smoothly.
Right.
It doesn't work like that, does it?
No, it really does.
Do you have much in the way of separate internal or qigong sets, or is that all built into the Sambo Jin and the 18 Point?
There are qigong sets. I have not learned any of them. Okay, they're dangerous to learn because if you do the wrong thing, you better have somebody there who knows how to undo whatever it is you did.
Yeah.
I mean that's because there are breathing sets. But you know, like I said, if you try them on your own and you get into trouble, you get something locked, something that has to know points. Somebody has to know where to, how to unlock you, because you just don't want to go there. For Sambo Jin, let's say you can do Sambo Jin in a number of different ways. You can do it. Let's say, you can go right. So you can go like that, or you can just go.
Yeah. Smooth. Yeah.
He's stopped. You've stopped, Mike.
You'll catch up.
Yeah.
Great way.
Do it hard. You can do it. You can do either way.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Now you're back.
But sorry.
No, we lost some of that, but we saw the first part, the sharp part.
I'll do it. I'll take it for you. I'm saying, standardly, you would go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you can go.
Yeah.
So, one is the second one is more, you're just breathing.
Yeah,
You're
more like Qigong.
You're manipulating the energy.
Yeah.
And the other one is it's you're striking.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over your time, Mike, what do you feel are the most important principles of?
I don't know if we can take any more questions.
We'll have a couple lined up actually, but what have we got? What were you saying? What was your one, Nish?
Yeah.
Good for time.
What have you found are the most important principles that you've learned and that you pass forward?
Good. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, the most important principles that you've learned over your time and that you pass on.
Footwork. Footwork and body control. Footwork and body control, because I'm not a skinny person, so for me to be able to control my body in space was the hardest thing, and the footwork, being able to use the footwork to be evasive and to be effective at the same time.
Yeah, we've got one question from Malcolm. Malcolm always likes his fighting talk. He says, can you ask Mike if he's had to use his martial arts skill to survive or win a hard fight or a fight up against an aggressor? You have got a story actually, haven't you, around that?
Yes. About 6 years ago, it was the Easter morning. It was about 5:30 in the morning, and I heard somebody screaming for help outside my bedroom window, and it was a lady was being attacked, and some guy had her down in the bushes, and was pawing at her. So I ran and grabbed my staff and was about to clock him when the door closed behind me. He gets up, looks at me, and sees me. Like I'm gonna. And he gets up and runs. He got away, but we took care of the lady. My wife's a nurse. We took her in the house. We got her straightened out. Called the cops and all of that. So yeah, that was one.
That was reported in the local paper, wasn't it? Local hero.
Yeah.
That was great. Yeah. Good for you.
And then just twice other. I just had to like once on the subway, somebody. I was accosted, and then just once on the street, somebody just, it wasn't any major thing. It was just, you just sort of let them know that immediately that you're not going to back down. It's like having that calmness of mind that you can't do this in this sort of sentient the way we're talking right now. No, there's a sort of a reptilian sense that goes on where you just sort of, I'm not going to say you blank out, but you just, everything just goes on automatic. And now it's just, it's him or you,
Yeah, the old, it's a bit different from the red mist coming down. It's just like, but it is that reptilian switch where everything becomes abstract. You don't start rationalizing. It's just, you're picking up signals around you and reacting to those rather than actually thinking it.
Right. And I'm not thinking, if he punches, if he's gonna, no, because I have no idea what he's gonna do. So I'm just gonna say, I just gotta relax. And as soon as he twitches, you just gotta go for him. You gotta go into him. You gotta disrupt his center, and right away, like the throat, all up here. Or you want to go give him a nice liver palm or spleen, a phoenix over the spleen, or anything in the lower ribs. Just something that you just want to just end it quickly.
Yeah. Another question from Nick is saying, how different is this system to Chalgar? And it's like you've had a bit of experience, but I think you've kind of answered this already in a lot of ways. It's one of those hard questions to try and draw up a list of comparisons between two systems. But you've kind of answered it, saying there's a lot of similarities. We share a lot of the same kind of jongs as well. It's just there is the obvious difference in emphasis. But how would you see it?
Well, I would just say that I'm not going to speak for all of Jook because you'll go online and you say, you'll see all these videos from Pinsan and other places. And it doesn't look like anything that I'm doing or anything anybody in New York is or Jinfu Mark did. So I'll just speak for our system, our branch is just where we just want to be more evasive and more soft. And you guys are more direct, and we both want to get it over with as quickly as possible. It's just like I said, everybody's doing the same thing differently.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would just say being evasive, and trying not to let the other guy's power get into you. You want to get your power into him.
Yeah.
Mm. As a decent question here, Mark Roberts, he said one of the big criticisms of traditional Chinese martial arts is that they only practice against their own system to defend against their own style. Do you ever practice your live responses with people from other systems and methods?
Well, that's why we used to go to the park all the time, and we would get together. We used to call them the gatherings back in. And where we would get guys from Choi Lei Foot, Wing Chun, Dragon, of course us, we get a couple of karate guys, and we'd all go to the park and we'd all stand there and say, okay, what do you guys do? You're gonna somebody's gonna do this, okay? What do you all do? And well, let's see what everybody does, and you sort of you. As somebody once said, if somebody's going to fight you on the street as a street fighter, that's one thing. If somebody's going to fight you, like stylistically, then you really, like Sun Tzu says, you have to know your enemy. I mean, because it's like I have a friend of mine who's the Choi Lei Foot master, Dixon Fung, who I have never seen a human being close 6 feet on anybody faster. So if he's standing 6 feet away from you, you think you're perfectly safe, and meanwhile he's exactly where he wants you to be, because he's going to close that gap, start swinging those arms, and you're going to go because he's going to so overwhelm you, So that's why you have to style for style. It's always good to learn. I always liked going to other schools. I always like meeting people and going to see what other people are doing. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, Jook Love is the best," or anything. I'm not going to do that. It's people who make it. I mean, it's people who make things, not necessarily the style. I mean, you have people. I know 36 forms and unchanged for 44 generations and blah blah blah. But the minute you go like that to them, they don't know what to do. So it's really, you know, how well you know yourself, how well you know the other people, and then how well do you know the unknown. So
We've got a question from Sando.
yeah.
Do you train for Iron Shirt, and do you have any type of training aids? So any other tools or?
Yeah, well, we have the staff, we have the rings, and
Bamboo rolling and stuff as
yeah,
well.
bamboo rolling, the bamboo, the different kinds of poles. We have the very stiff ones.
Yeah.
And then we have the very flexible. We have the rattan ones, the ones that you know, that are thingy, you know, because it's a different kind of energy that you're going to be dealing with.
Yeah. There is there's a form somewhere online of you doing the rattan one, isn't there?
Yeah.
Somewhere, yeah.
There's a lot. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's really nice. That's a nice form. Yeah, very fluid. And you said you don't do a lot of the rib stuff. So Sando, the Iron Shirt training, the Qigong's inherent in the form, but there's no specific. If I'm right, no specific.
No, there is. That is one of the things that you, if you want to say that is lacking or missing, or we didn't get was that sort of dipquat that all of that. It's in there, but it's not to the level. Yeah. It's not to the level of that you folks are. And again, that's because again, you know, Lamb being short in stature, you know, he doesn't want to get hit, which is. I'll tell you here's a funny story. When we were up in the Mongok Gun, and I've never seen those beautiful 8-foot poles that they have up there. Yeah. I mean, those things are just absolutely gorgeous, right?
So hard to get now.
I remember the GM. He says he stands there in the room and he's like, "Da." And I'm like, oh no, not again, please, you know. And I'm like, no. So, and this thing is heavy. I mean, this thing is, you know those things, right?
Yeah.
I tap, I give him a little whack, and oh no. You really got to hit me. And then somebody says, he goes, if you really don't hit him, he's really going to get mad. Yeah. And I said, okay. And I said, but you guys are gonna save me, right? Because I don't want to, And he stood there like he's like waiting for the minibus. And I whacked him, and he didn't move. And I was like, look at him, and I was like shocked because the foot just boom, and it just like went, all that energy went right back into me. And he looks at me and he says, "Do you know how I did that?" And I said, "You cheated." And now everybody went, like, you just say to the GM? He says, and I said, "You used the whole earth against me."
Yeah.
I said, you use your toes and everything to grab the ground. So hitting you, I might as well hit it on the ground. It's the same thing. You use the earth. And he thought that was very, 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 very funny. But that's the kind of strength he had.
Those poles are not light. But
that's the whole economy of Lamb and Yitsui were basically the same size. We had totally opposite ends of the spectrum of how they express their art.
Except Ibshui was known to move around. He wasn't like a stand because again for his size, slippery individual. But it's quite interesting. Because size will, I think, affect how people learn and express their art. It does. It can have an impact. You're not going to be jumping around, but if you're kind of a larger individual like us, and older, you're not going to run around everywhere and be as nimble as someone that's really quite light.
That's me. We've got some questions coming in. Sifu Angelo Quinto's got a question. Mike, tell the story you witnessed of Jimmy at the park.
Oh, okay. So one day we're at the park with Mr. Su. I'll call him Mr. Su because he hates being called Sifu. anyway, so we're at the park one day, and this guy comes in, and he looks like he's like straight out of like the Chinese army. I mean, he had the brush haircut, he buff. Oh, he just had badass written all over him, right? So he comes to the park, and at that time, everybody's doing a little chisao. Everybody does a little. You're doing push hands, and and this guy's like standing there, and he's making derogatory comments. And so Mr. Su goes over to him. They have this quiet conversation, and then all of a sudden, Mr. Su and this guy go at it, right? And so it's just boom, boom, boom. And next thing you know, Mr. Su has his hands like one here and one here, right? And the guy gets very upset. And so Mr. Su says, you know what? He says, I'm going to do the same thing to you again, and you're not going to be able to stop me. And now everybody in the park is like, oh shit, right? Now he's got this guy steamed, right? Now this guy's really steamed. And then, of course, me and Angela, we know the more he gets this guy steamed, the easier it's going to be, right? So as soon as this guy comes out, I'm like same thing right again. Guy just turns around, walks out of the park, never saw him again. But that was, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did.
Yeah, it's quite like people know if you can see the way people move, if you know you can do so, it's so easy to manipulate them to do it again. A few more questions coming in. Dim-mak, do you have an emphasis on Dim-mak within your system, within the Jook Lum?
Yes.
Does it play a major role? Is it endemic in all the techniques?
Generally speaking, until you're told where the points are, you're not really knowing that you're hitting them, right? After a while, when somebody starts showing you the points, again, you have to have somebody who can undo whatever it is that you do.
Course. Yeah.
That's key. But yes.
Right. Another question from Reto. Reto says, "Can you use we're talking about NYC Jook Lum. Can you use it in a ring for sport, or is it just for self-defense?"
It would just be for self-defense, just because so many it's mostly destruction techniques. Okay, right. It's quickly you really. Sorry about that.
Right.
It's Sunday, and we have the local motorcycle boys out there. It's inherently dangerous. It's like if somebody goes for like a single leg takedown, right? Now generally speaking, if you're going to, somebody's going to take you down to the floor, you're not going to hit them in the back of the head. You're not going to hit them here. You're not going to hit them here. You're not going to do anything bad to them. Okay. Whereas like even in the forums, it'll show you like anti-grappling techniques, and again, if I'm not going to let somebody just take me down, but again, I don't want to have to hurt somebody if they do, because I will. That's my first instinct, is not to be taken to the floor.
Yeah.
So in a sport competition, I would say, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, it's just that it's not a very sporting system, It's
yeah.
Monarchy of Queensberry rules, that's. So
we've got a question from Fred Bland. Could you talk about borrowing power as it relates to Jook Lum?
Oh well, you want basically that's how that works in conjunction with the footworking and the spiraling of your body. So as your opponent comes in, you want to be able to touch and feel where they're issuing, and then use that issuing power from them to be able to just steal their energy. We call it stealing the other guy's energy, or borrowing the other guy's energy, or swallowing. It's all the same thing, right? So if he throws a punch, if he throws a punch, right? And now I'm not just gonna. I don't want to just. I can just try to smash it out the way, or I can kind of do this, ride his arm, and then as I'm pulling his arm, which he's pushing with, use this come up. So now I have this whole twisting, torquing motion in my body thanks to him.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for two things. Where he isn't, okay? Where his hands are not, because that's where I'm going to attack. And then as his hands come in, I want to be able to just give him that slightest of touch, either throw him off his center or find out where his power is coming, and then use that to torque my own body. And so taking his energy and then using it against it.
Right.
There's another little story. Mark Roberts says, Mike, you might like this. He said a friend of his who trained in Jalgar was in New York many years ago. He came back to his apartment one night and there was a strange man there who attacked him. He subdued him and the police came, and it turned out he was a serial rapist.
Oh.
And it was reported in his newspaper. His friend, his name is Robbie Adib. He's a Nigerian. He's half Nigerian. So his name was Robbie Adib. But the papers reported him as Rabbi Adib. So at the time, Mayor Koch, is it Koch or Koch?
Koch.
Mayor Koch was campaigning for re-election. He wanted to encourage the Jewish vote. So he invited him to meet him and had a press call. And his face was a picture when this guy walked in, half Nigerian guy walked in. Wasn't a rabbi, Robbie. Yeah. Oh, funny. Yeah, but he thought you might like that because it's got the old similarities there. But it's good that he managed to deal with another serial rapist there.
We've got a comment from Mitchell Levin. He said, Master Mark did not teach this to anyone. I think he might be talking about the
Dim Mak.
And he said, simply hitting the points won't be effective.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be not just be able to hit them. You have to also be able to activate them. That's one of the things that, again, the points are a very high level thing. It's over my head. Okay, I mean, I learned from experience, like where basically, they are on the body, and I would only do that in dire if I was absolutely had to. But the whole what he's. You have to. It's not just enough to hit. You have to hit and sometimes twist.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that it's not just hitting. It's twisting. Because like in Sambo Jin, you have the hit, you open, so you twist.
Yeah.
So that will activate the point. Now, again, it's easier said than done. I mean, I don't know why Master Mark didn't teach them. I don't. Again, the only thing I can say is, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, some of these things. Some of these things kind of are just straightforward. Some of them are overcomplicated. Some of them are highly impractical.
Exactly.
When we get into the impact.
It's like okay. So you know the points, right?
Yeah.
Now comes this big guy, but some biker dude who's got this huge leather jacket on.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how do you get your energy through his leather jacket?
Exactly. So the simple ones, the effective ones, the ones that are most effective are effective by hitting them. You know what I mean?
Like you have stomach 5 on the jaw. Everybody knows that. I mean, there
Exactly. So the classic targets are the ones where it is effective. And, yeah, but very interesting. I think again we can talk about it within in Jalgar as well. We know it's a Dim Mak striking system. There's we use the Phoenix as, but to study that to that level of it take a lifetime really.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, you have to shade. You need to have somebody who knows how to undo whatever it is you do, and that's because there's stories about people learning the Heigong and getting themselves messed up internally and having to go to the hospital or just being messed up for their their whole lives. I mean, it does happen. So, like I said, you have to be very, very careful.
Guidance. It does need guidance. I mean, I don't think people don't, unless they really overdo it, they're not going to kind of mess themselves up instantly. Yeah. But you hear even myself and Nish when we're training, we're talking about there's certain types of training like the dip work and stuff. We just say don't overdo it because people can do themselves a mischief if they're not guided, if they're doing it wrong, especially over longer periods. But we've all heard stories of people messing themselves up with the qigong training when they're doing it wrong.
Too. It's sad because you see
they mess the breath up and then get it kind of wrong. But that's why we all need guidance.
So we're coming up to the 2-hour mark. We've got about 10 or 12 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some photos and you can talk about them.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny actually. Sorry. Yeah. Just Mitchell just said, look, you said that right, Mike. He's been undoing for many years some of the internal training, is intense practice. And he's been, if I'm right, he's been undoing stuff that he's been doing wrong before.
Right. But this photo is when we first started together as a group, with Sifu Quinto there in the middle in the blue shirt, the slightly different colored shirt. That him. To the immediate right of him is the late Vito Harris. He was my elder brother. It's me, and that school actually belongs to Sifu Rick Kellerman, who is standing next to me, to my...
Behind you in the picture.
Yeah, right. That school belongs to Rick Kellerman. We used to go, he was kind enough to lend us his school for training, and we would train there on Long Island.
Brilliant. So is it, Rick's based in New York as well?
Yeah, out in Huntington or Hempstead? It's Huntington.
Cool.
That's back in the day when I was with Sifu Norman Chin. I was part of his #1 lion dance team there. I was fortunate. I was the Dai Tao Fut, or the boot.
Yeah. Brilliant.
That was back in the day. You still could have firecrackers. Don't let you have firecrackers anymore, thanks to Mayor Giuliani. But back in the day, oh man, that was something.
Did you learn the line as well, Mike, as well?
Yeah. Yeah. You learn the head, the booty, you have to learn everything. This was just that was on vacation, and some photographers saw me, and he was just like, hey, can I take some pictures of you? I was like, sure.
Oh, nice.
So again, me and Master Mark back. That's like 1991. Yeah. Back when I had hair.
Oh, we saw this one. This is when you went to Hong Kong.
Right. That was in Hong Kong.
Look at that floor.
Yeah. That's me doing a pole form in front of the Association House on Bayard Street. Basically,
this is Chinese New Year, which is huge in New York, isn't it?
Oh, massive. They had 2 weeks. They take 2 full weeks. They have one day though on a Saturday when all the schools and all the associations they come out. Excuse me. It's that time of the day where the pollen gets crazy. So all the associations come out, and they get their red envelopes, and you go in front of your particular association, and then you demonstrate.
It was great when I visited New York on Chinese New Year. It was crazy. I just didn't realize it was so popular and so.
Oh yeah, and there are three separate Chinatowns. You have the one in Chinatown, there's one in Brooklyn, and then there's one in Flushing. Yeah. And they all do different parades, They all do basically the same thing, and yeah. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and all the local kung fu schools come out as well. So you've got Jook, you've got Honga, you've got everyone. It was great.
Actually, it's funny. I remember as a little kid, again, real little kid, my bedroom used to overlook East Broadway, which is a main street there in. And I remember, like January, February every year, you'd hear dun 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 dun, and I could look out and see the lions go by.
Brilliant.
And then I was like, oh, it's Chinese New Year. Oh, and then I remember I was like begging my mother. I was like, please, let me go downstairs. I want to see what this is all about. Yeah. And I remember the first time, I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. I was able to like go down on the street and actually see it and smell it. You can smell the firecrackers. You can feel the drum in your chest. And I was just like, wow. I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. I've got your YouTube channel open as well.
Oh,
this is the one this is your one, the form that you really like.
And this is a very short version.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, I like this.
That's with a rattan pole. You see, the footwork in that is very important as well.
Yeah.
Nice. And then
that's oh my God, God, I can't even remember how old that is.
Long time, it looks like it was posted like 10 years ago or so, but
no, that was about 20 years ago.
Wow.
That was 20 years ago.
Always like this. It's for me when looking at this was a very nice, crisp form. Just very cleanly done. Do you step on the heel or the toes? Or just the whole floor?
Actually, it's the pads of your feet.
Right.
You. The saying goes, slip a piece of paper under your heel.
Ah.
So that way you're not leaning forward, but you basically want to have all of your weight on the pads, not your toes, the pads that are behind your toes. That's where you want to be. And you want to be able to slip a piece of paper underneath. Now, occasionally you do have to get back on the heel. The heel does touch the ground occasionally.
Yeah,
but for the
I know what you mean.
You want to be able to move.
Yeah.
Very nice. Right. Well, this is on YouTube if anybody wants to see
it. It's on my Bug Fu channel.
Bug Fu, that was your name on the forums.
That's it, right? Yes.
Years ago.
It was, yeah.
Also, there's the rings one on there too. If you want to show the rings, because because you asked about
training tools.
About training tools. Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah, so using the iron rings and...
I can't see it.
Oh, what am I doing? Sorry.
You're watching it. We're watching you.
Sorry, let me show again. There we go. Terrible. There we go.
So again, this is just freestyling on the iron rings. But you can't hear the audio because the sound the rings make is very important.
Yes.
It has to be ching 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 ching. It has to have a certain rhythm to it. Otherwise, if it sounds like a mess, then your energy's all wrong.
Right. Is that clean ching is because the energy is clean when you punch out?
Nice.
Again, this school, is that Rick Kellerman's school again?
Yeah.
There?
Yep.
Nice school.
No, it's beautiful.
Nice setup, yeah.
I
just want to say one thing. I still show the boys, and I insist that they all learn it. Right? Is because I want to make sure that I show you that I haven't forgotten. Right? Right?
Yeah. Nice, well done. Yeah. The first second at the beginning of the film there.
But this whole thing, all of this.
Yeah.
I insist that they do it because I find that it massages the spine.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from opening. Sorry, now the sun's being cocky. That's better. The way I find it's like when you bring your shoulders back, I forget about the shoulders. What I think about is the spine, and basically, I want to think the muscles squeezing my spine, and that helps.
Open your chest. Open your chest. When you're doing that, you're squeezing the shoulder blades back.
Right, but I put the emphasis on the spine. Always think about the spine. Massage the spine. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, part of the thing about that, but the first 8 moves, the part set as well, is that it's stimulating the microcosmic orbit. So energetically, it's getting the energy flowing around the body as well. So you get it up the spine when you breathe in, you know, and then down the front.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great little setup. Yeah, a little set on its own, even.
Oh, absolutely. It was very funny because GM Ipsui taught me himself, and like everybody, people were like, "What is he doing?" And I was saying, "What are you doing?" Like I just, you know, I mean, for some reason, I don't know. For some reason, he liked me. I mean, it's,
unique bit to be able to say that you've been taught something by Ipsui.
Oh yeah. Actually, it was very funny because he taught me the first 3 forms, and he says, the first 3 forms, a whole bunch of chongs, and he said that's 3 years of training I just gave you. And he goes, you're gonna forget most of it. That's okay. He says, just remember me and remember the first form, and you'll be fine.
Oh, wow.
That's incredible. That's a great story, isn't it?
Great story, yeah. What a great way to finish as well, actually.
Yeah, your Sifu Angelo says the ring should make a certain sound. Well done, Mike.
Right.
Yeah, for mentioning that. And
fantastic. So we're at the 2-hour mark. Mike, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. And remember, we're all doing the same thing differently.
Yeah, great quote of yours. I often use it.
Famous Mike quote, that one over the years. We've heard that from you. But yeah, I mean, again, thank you for being open. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing more about your family style of Jook. Really interesting, really great for the group.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Mike.
Take care.
Much appreciated.
For those that are joining, write some comments. You let us know what you think, and we'll put this up on YouTube. And if you want to reach out to Mike, he's on Facebook. So there you go. All right.
Take care.
Cheers, Mike.
Take care.
Hang on. Oh, he's gone.